Hello, my name is Maggie Cunningham. We're in Mountain Ranch today on Railroad Flat Road to speak to James Keever. He's a sculptor who works with lead crystal. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Glad to meet you.
Well, let's start out by learning something about who is James Keever. Where were you born, James?
In Marin County, quite a few years ago.
And were you raised here in California?
Yes, I'm a native son of California.
And what brought you to Mountain Ranch?
Well, me and my wife were thinking about getting away from the hectic Marin County life and etc. And we thought we'd like to move more into the country and have more of a relaxed, peaceful type life. So we took a few little trips up to the Gold Country, which we've always liked, and we kind of discovered Mountain Ranch. So we put some money down on some property, and I built my home and my studio, and here we are.
Are you here to stay, you think?
I think so. Yep.
Okay, well, what about your family? Are there other artists in your family, other sculptors?
Yeah, my son Jimmy, he's a very talented boy that, no, I wouldn't say boy, he's a man, that has worked with a lot of different art medias, and now he's working with me in the crystal.
Okay, great. How long have you done this kind of work? How did you get started, I should say, first?
Well, I started in Marin County working. I started in the glass trade, period, like installing windows, etc. But I always had this feeling for the art because I did art in high school and whatever, and I got more and more involved in the art end of glass. I started out doing beveled windows and stained glass windows and doing different types of sandblasting and engraving into glass, and then I worked my way into the crystal. Once I found the crystal, then I expressed myself more into like sculptural pieces and paperweights.
Mm-hmm. So you have worked with other kinds of media
Just about
before?
all types of glass except hot glass.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know some hot glass artists, and I've been to their studios and experimented a little bit, but I don't work in hot glass.
Okay, well, let's talk about your medium. What is lead crystal?
It's the purest form of glass per se. It has a certain amount of lead. There's different types of crystal. There's different formulas for crystals, so you can't really describe. But mostly, it's at least minimum 20% to 30% lead crystal, which makes the refractive quality of the crystal more. It brings out the brilliance in the clarity of the crystal, and
Okay.
it makes it also soft.
And where do you get it?
I get it from several places. Some comes from Europe and from Los Angeles area.
Is it expensive?
It's very expensive. I buy it by the pound.
And is it real fragile, or?
Yeah, it breaks.
If you wanted to do a sculpture then, how would you go about getting the lead crystal? Where would you get it from, and how does it come to you, and so on?
Well, first of all, I'd work up a drawing, or what's called a blueprint, and maybe I'd make a scale model of plaster or styrofoam or something of that nature. Then I would ship it to a distributor I have in Los Angeles, or maybe even back east, or even out of the country in Europe, and get the product.
Okay, and then depending on, of course, the size of the sculpture, how big the piece is going to be, can you show us how it comes to you?
Well, on smaller pieces, like pieces that I fabricate myself,
Mm-hmm.
I get it in a strip form, which is a pretty heavy piece here of optical crystal. And out of this piece, I would already had figured out my dimensions and sizes that I'd need, and it would come to me in this type of form. Then I would ink it on with an India ink and check my blueprint very carefully and saw and grind and come up with my product. This is one form of making a crystal piece, like part of my collection. Then, besides the strip material that I'd be using, I would have the raw material pressed into a shape close to what I'm doing. This is a paperweight that I'm now producing for some collectors, and it's a crude form, which you can see the mold marks, etc., and it still needs a lot of work. Now, what I would do is grind this outer ring around the shape and reshape it and grind it and polish it, which I can show you a finished piece that I do have of this.
Okay, where do you get your ideas for these? I mean, when you look at a piece of crystal, how do you get your ideas?
Well, some pieces are inspired.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking and you're looking at a geometric shape or a sawed-off piece of glass. A lot of times I work with a maquette, which is a small cut-off piece. I keep all the cut-off angular pieces, etc., that I do from other projects that I've worked on. And sometimes you look at one and it looks just really right. So you take that, make your measurements, and then enlarge it and produce a larger piece. That's how I do make a lot of different art objects.
Do you want to go into the shop now and give us an idea of how, from start to finish, when you take a piece and go through the process, and let us see how that happens?
Sure.
Okay.
Hi. This is my son Jimmy. He works with me in my studio, working on a lot of my projects and help designing my projects and a lot of ideas that he's come up himself with. And he's going to be working on one of these paperweights that we're producing, and it's kind of one of his little projects. And he's going to have to remove the outer rim of the paperweight. And kind of explain a little bit what you're going to do, Jimmy, with the grinder there. And what you're using.
Well, first of all, I'll start off with the diamond plate, which is right here, and the lip around the piece, which you can see, will be ground off from that, and it will be smooth and ready to be microgridded, which is in the other room.
Now that we've seen the process of what you do with the crystal and how it becomes a sculpture, let's talk a little bit about marketing your work. Now, I understand that a lot of artists are not always businessmen, and that's difficult sometimes to market your work, to put a price on it, to go out and sell it when it's a lot of labor of love. And has that been a problem for you?
In the past, yes, it has been a problem. Well, actually, it's always been a problem. Any artist has to face this problem of trying to sell his product, and you see every imperfection and little flaws, etc., etc. So it's really hard to really get behind it and really push it. So you need more of a dynamic person that understands and that is kind of stand back-ish, offish. That can sell my product. And I was very lucky to find a person like Linda Bunnell of Silver Lining Studios here locally, and she represents several other artists, and I was, like I say, very lucky that she was to represent me in my work, and she's been very successful in selling the products for me.
That's nice. I'd like to introduce to you Linda Bunnell. And Linda, what is the name of your studio?
The company is called Silver Lining Studios. We called it that because we represent a number of different artists, and we wanted that image of multiple studio locations. Most of the artists I represent are in the Calaveras County, and a broad range of sculptors and painters and people who do drawings, wood carvings, a little bit of everything. It's been very successful for us, and the crystal has been a tremendous addition to the line.
Now, you did some research into how many people are doing this type of work. Can you tell us a little bit about what you found out?
Yes, actually, there are very few people working in cold glass, working with lead, optical quality lead crystal. There are approximately 7 in the United States right now. I'm sure that number varies from time to time, so I wouldn't hold me to it. Most of them work in a much smaller scale than Jim does. It is a very difficult process, a very precise process. And I found that of all the people out there, Jim has the broadest product range and the widest following. He does a tremendous amount of corporate business, a lot of trophy work of those kinds of things. We have specifically targeted that market. We find that the corporate level, they are looking for a unique product. They're used to having to go someplace, look through the standard catalog, and be very limited in what they can present. When you're giving a major national award or you're doing a trophy for a key employee or whatever else, it's a real asset to be able to come up with something unique. We will work with a firm through the design phase. Jim will do drawings, we'll do a maquette, a scale model of the piece, and then do a finished piece at a reasonable price in a reasonable time frame. And we've been able to deliver a quality product out of a material that is universally recognized as being a good art form and a valuable possession. And that, I think, is primarily what you're looking for when you do an award or a trophy.
Can you give us kind of a who's who of some of the corporations and things that James has done some work for?
Probably some of the best known environments are things like Time Life and the Marriott hotels. The more recent things we're doing are with some of the firms in the Bay Area. We're working with a firm called Interop that gives an Interop Achievement Award in the fall, and their Genesis Award, which we're working on right now, that'll be presented in the spring. We also are working with a name I'm sure everyone knows, which is IBM. The piece I'm holding is a trophy we're currently doing for IBM, and it's an award being given to their top performers. I'm not sure which division they're producing it for, but it is a Sales Achievement Award. And this year we'll be doing 10 of these pieces.
Let's hold that up so we can see that. That's beautiful.
It's very typical of Jim's work. We work primarily in geometrics in an abstract form, and what we're attempting to do is to create the image of an upward achievement situation and using the facets to create an art piece at the same time and reflect light in a variety of ways. We initially called this piece the Crystal Chamber. Obviously, you always allow a client to name it whatever they'd like, and we aren't sure what the final award will be called. But we called it Crystal Chamber because of the light refraction. I think one of Jim's finer pieces, actually.
It's beautiful. Where could someone see, is there a gallery or other places where his work might be seen other than at the corporate level?
We have Jim's work being presented in a number of ways. We do work with fine stores, department stores, such as the William Glenn store in Sacramento, Lippy Warren store in Southern California. We have a representative of a chain called Avery's in the Bay Area that we work with, and the ISIS stores in Florida. We also present him in a number of catalogs. We have, for example, the Art of Collecting catalog that he is represented in. We have Clearly Corporate, which is presented to the corporate market, so that's really a very similar situation. That's out of Salt Lake City. We're, as a matter of fact, meeting next week with someone to negotiate representation in the Chicago area, and we'll be in a showroom there. Contact Point is another catalog that he's represented in. And of course, we do get quite a bit of publicity from items such as the humanitarian award that was presented to Nancy Reagan that Jim was a co-designer and co-producer of. We do work with another number of other sculptors in that kind of an environment. We have found that the fine gift stores are a good location to work because you're then showing the product along with other crystal, and it's an environment that people are comfortable with. But the majority of our work comes to us on referrals. A client we've done a corporate job for who is then presents the award, and the person who receives it has other contacts as they're viewing it. So it's as much word of mouth as it is marketing and presentation.
Well, that's wonderful. Okay, well, now that we've seen some of the who some of the people are that purchase his work, I think we ought to take a look at some of the other finished products that we have here, and you can see how beautiful it is.
We have a number of pieces in the display case. If you'd like to come over, we'll show them to you.
That's great. Okay.
In this case, we have a number of pieces that are representative of Jim's work. They range in size from 1 by 2 inches up to an 11 by 4 inch piece. They are quite representative, and a lot of these are pieces that are one-of-a-kind art pieces. There are also pieces that we reproduce for sale in the department stores, and a couple of unique pieces. This is the piece we call Earth Staging. As you can see, it has a diacrylic filter laminated onto the base of it. This is where the reflected light in color comes from. A particular piece reflects a combination of magenta and green. This piece is called Time Portal. It is a cylinder cut at an angle across the front with a convex cut in the back of it, and this gives the effect of a tunnel through the piece of glass. There are a number of other pieces like that. This piece is called the Amethyst Star. It also has diacrylic on it, and as you turn the piece, the facets will draw light. Again, we have an amethyst color tone there. This piece is called Nautilus. You see it here in a number of different sizes. It is available in the stores, specifically in William Glenn, and I think we may have some of these pieces at the L'Atelier Gallery in Murphy's, which can be viewed locally.
Well, thank you so much, James, for showing us how a plain piece of crystal can be turned into something so magnificent and beautiful and sparkling. And we really appreciate you showing us the tour of your studio and how the process works. Thanks so much. And from Calaveras Community Television, I'm Maggie Cunningham. Thanks for watching.